One thing about being in a particular investment asset class for 4 decades, you get to learn about people and their characteristic, and it very clearly defines a lot about individuals, not just because of who they are, where they live, geography, but it has a lot to do with how they've evolved as a person in their professional career. So our company has a lot of medical professionals that are clients and investors with us. They're surgeons, they're doctors, they're dentists, they're chiropractors, etc. One common trait I see in the majority of our medical professionals is that they are very, very smart in the things that they do. They're very, very good at the specialty that they've studied for 6, 8, 15 years. They're really, really good in their own environment as far as ascertaining what looks normal versus abnormal. But that also has been one of the biggest downfalls that I've seen when it comes to medical professionals investing in oil and gas. They sit in a room and they try to analyze a oil and gas investment the same way they might analyze some kind of a symptom. And they're looking at the final totality of that assessment and that analysis by gathering data, which is not a bad thing. But data in and data out without having some kind of relative measurement or understanding or comprehensive intellectual study is going to mean you got a lot of wasted time and effort on information that's not going to have any real importance because you don't know what to do with the data. And just like a medical professional is an expert at what they do, there are experts like in oil and gas that we do that I can never really explain because it comes with 4 decades of expertise. So I put out to the world that we are all about transparency and education. But I'm going to tell you a bold statement because I'm a sponsor. I do a lot of work with lots of medical professionals all over the country. I'm involved in a lot of different podcasts and a lot of different events I go to where there's nothing but medical professionals there. So I do this with all due respect. And that is when I go in and I have a medical issue, I seek out the medical professional that is trained in that area that I need. I had foot surgery 2 years ago. And with that foot surgery, I said, I got to find the best foot surgeon around that knows and understands and can detect the problem with my foot. And then can they fix it? Once I found the right person, the who, and I found the right reason, I understood what was going on at a layman's level. I then said, well, I've got to trust this individual to do the work that he determines is required to get my foot feeling better. Went to a great surgeon, went out to Las Vegas, had it done. It's been over a year, changed my life. I mean, I could hardly walk. It was that bad of pain. Here I am a year later. I can play sand volleyball. I can run. I can use my bike, all the things I couldn't do a year ago. So I have to take the approach when it comes to medical professionals. That is, you're really good at what you do, we hope. You're in the top of your peer class, we hope. You're successful by the income you make, we expect. The question is, do you have the ability to try to make sure you're not trying to be the smartest person in the room when it comes to actually getting professional expert advice in a particular asset class or subject matter that you're not an expert in and will never be an expert in? That is the downfall of medical professionals. And many don't think long term. They're all about got a patient, got a problem, fix the problem, patient's gone, may not ever see him again. That's not how investments work. That's not how oil and gas works specifically. It is about a permanent part of a portfolio. It's a way of moving your net worth and balance sheet forward. It's a way of tax planning, tax deductions, tax-free income. It's a way of balancing an overall very healthy portfolio by adding one component that is kind of the underpinning or drive that allows you to save tax dollars to redeploy using your own investment decisions versus giving it to the government. It's also about residual income, book value reserves in the ground, longevity, all these things that are really important. So it's not like being a doctor. Patient, problem, solution, adios. It's asset, opportunity, value, ongoing comprehension, ongoing learning and education. It's full circle proof of concept. It's the ability for you to say, in this particular asset class, as smart as I think I am, I'm not an expert in that. And I really don't care to be an expert in that. I don't care to be a foot surgeon. I didn't go online and figure out everything that doctor said about every single thing and the proper way to do surgery and the anesthesia. I didn't do that. I have to have a level of trust by saying, by preponderance of the facts, preponderance of the evidence, This doctor, everything I've seen and looked online about his credentials says he is the expert. I'm going to trust him. And I did, and it worked out great. The same thing applies to investments, CPAs, legal advice, financial advisors. When's the last time you asked your financial advisor, show me your social security number, show me your own balance sheet, show me your portfolio, show me your credit score? You'd be shocked at how many financial planners' credit scores below 700. You'd be surprised how many are in their third, fourth marriage. How many of them have 3, 4 kids with child support they're behind on? How many of them have been arrested for DWI or other convictions? You'd be shocked out of your shorts, but you don't ask them for all that. You just give your money. Hey, he's a financial advisor. He's got his fingernails clipped. He's got a nice, pretty tie on, and he's going to have 200, 300, $500 million of assets under management. That means people have given somebody that probably doesn't have a good credit score or have their own portfolio. They're probably not even a millionaire themselves. You're giving them $500 million for them to have discretion over make investment advice? I don't think so. I don't think so, right? So the reason I say that, and the reason why I have this topic about why medical professionals can be some of the worst investors out there, is because they don't really want to trust you. And I don't mean like trust like you're a liar. They don't want to trust that your expertise is sufficient and will be enough for them to say, I trust you in this asset, the benefits that come with it, the way you're going to manage. I trust that you know what you're doing. And because of that asset, I get out of it what I want. I get the income, the tax benefits. I get all the attributes of that particular asset. And that's what I want. But you're the expert. You're the surgeon when it comes to oil and gas, Troy. You're the expert when it comes to buy and flip, John. You're the expert in multifamily, Samantha. You have to have the who in your life. When you get the who and you trust the who and you research the who and you know the who in your investments is the correct who, it's like finding the right surgeon, right? Finding the right doctor, like finding the right lawyer, the right CPA. When you get the who, the rest automatically falls into place because the right who is the right answer. I hope you're successful in what you're doing. And I hope the medical professionals that see this understand. I don't want to insult you, but quite frankly, I've met a lot of doctors who are not very bright outside of their profession. And we have in the industry of investments, they're always called, are these a doctor deal? Now, why has that been around for 40 plus years? Is this a doctor deal? Because typically speaking, if a bunch of doctors get into it, they all think they're super smart and they get into it, it's usually the worst deal there is. Usually if there's a lot of doctors or medical professionals in a particular deal, you know it's a deal that's either a Ponzi scheme, it's a scam, or it's a failed deal. And the more street smart, savvy investors don't like doing doctor deals. I want you to be the medical professional that's the exception to the rule. I want you to find out how to do diligence. I want you to really look at the who, whether it be oil and gas with somebody like myself or whether it be somebody who's an expert in the other asset classes. But the who is going to make the difference. The who saved my foot. The who changed my life. I wish I'd have found him earlier. But the fact of the matter is he changed my entire trajectory of my life as a result of the surgery on my foot. The who is absolutely the most critical point. I hope any medical professional listens to me understands that. And by the way, we have a ton of information on how to find the who. We have a ton of information on due diligence. We have a ton of information on making you a street smart investor. You just have to go to our company website, EckardEnterprises.com. See what you find there. Thanks.